saying it should be done legislatively?
The Second Circuit Court of Appeals decision, which is now the decision that stands, said basically that, you know, it interpreted the statute that allows damages for conspiracy to torture with a foreign country. It interpreted that to not apply in this case, so it says Congress needs to fix that. It also refused to imply a remedy for a constitutional violation. Here, Maher was sent to torture in Syria and also was prevented from going to court to stop it, which Congress specifically legislated people have a right to do. And it basically said that because of reasons of national security, there's no remedy here. So that's something that Congress needs to fix.
What could the Obama administration do right now?
Well, the Obama administration can do what it could have done all along, which is just apologize to Maher for what Bush administration officials did. It could provide Maher with a remedy. It could take him off the watch list. It could also, you know, seek changes in the law to make it more clear.
Now, we've just gotten Maher Arar in the TV studio up at the CBC in Ottawa, so we're going to hear him and see him more clearly. Maher, talk about what you have just learned from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Well, actually, I've been cooperating with this investigation for the past 4 years. It's an investigation that was launched 4 years ago. My lawyer at the inquiry at that time, Marlis Edward, asked for that investigation. So it's been going on. They've been collecting evidence. They've been interviewing people both in Canada and internationally. They've traveled to some countries and they've collected evidence. They spoke to some interesting people. And their focus is on the Syrian torturers as well as those American officials who were complicit in my torture.
Can you be more specific? Who are they looking into criminally in the United States? What U.S. officials?
They, I'll just give you what I can say publicly. They are looking to charge those people who tortured me physically, but they're also looking into charging or investigating whether my removal to Syria was part of a torture program, and if it was, then they would lay charges against those officials who did this act of sending me to Syria. You have to remember, this is not an easy case, and they are trying their best to get the names and to identify those individuals. I don't know much about, as typical with any police investigation, they don't tell me or tell anyone a lot of details, but I can tell you that I was told the investigation has made a lot of progress within the last year or so.
And just to be clear, Maher Arar, you in Canada were completely exonerated. A judicial commission was in panel. They looked for months, produced a report of thousands of pages. Ultimately, the Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen Harper, a longtime Bush ally, held a news conference. You were awarded $10 million, or it was more than that, is that right?
That's correct. About $10 million US, yes.
And yet,
and the Prime Minister apologized. And by the way, the Canadian investigation inquiry lasted about 2.5 years. It was extremely exhaustive in nature. The interviews, if I remember correctly, they interviewed about 60 more or more witnesses, and they produced volumes of findings in which I was exonerated, but at the same time they laid the blame on some on the RCMP and other departments for sending false information to their American counterparts. But let's remember that what the report clearly stated, that the RCMP was not involved in my removal to Syria directly. All they did is they sent false information. That was the basis for the American decision. The ultimate guilty people here are the actual American officials, whether it's politicians or otherwise, who made that specific decision to send me to Syria, knowing that I would be tortured.
Maher Arar, talk about what you're doing now. We just have a minute.
Well, I just finished recently my PhD. I'm applying for an adjunct professor position at the university. It's not a full-time position, but it's going to keep me mentally stimulated. I also started a web-based magazine. It's called Prism Magazine, PRISM magazine.com. Basically, it focuses on national security issues. I've recently included a web-based TV component. In fact, this past Saturday, we launched a national security show about the Omar Khadr case, the last Canadian who's still detained in Guantanamo. So basically, my experience, or what happened to me, changed my life in the sense that struggle for justice and struggle against oppression has become a way of life for me. And I can never go back to just a simple 9-to-5 engineer anymore.
Well, I want to thank you very much for being with us, Maher Arar, Canadian victim of U.S. rendition, sent to Syria by the U.S. authorities and tortured. He was held for more than 10 months, sent back ultimately to Canada without charge, exonerated in Canada, rewarded more than $10 million. The U.S. Supreme Court has turned down his case, the lawsuit against the U.S. government. Maria LaHood, his attorney here in New York, the Center for Constitutional Rights. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. We'll be back in a minute.